When it comes to pro players or high elo players, it is not uncommon for them to have multiple accounts in Challenger. However, one particular Challenger player has hit Challenger so many times and has so much LP that it makes it seem like Challenger is no big deal. While most solo queue gods are able to get 2 or 3 accounts into top tier Challenger, this particular player has been able to get 5 separate accounts all into top 20 Challenger. Across these 5 Challenger accounts, he has roughly 5,000 league points. Who is this solo queue monster? Who is this elo hoarder?
Yeah, I'm Magi Felix. I have played in Red Bulls and Youth Crew Esports in TCL, the Turkish league. Solo queue, I have consistently been at least top 10 for almost 2 years now. And right now, I'm at 1,450 points, which is like the highest I've been ever.
That was 400 more LP than the second place player who was a professional player. 400 league points is the difference between someone who just hit Master Tier and someone just hitting Challenger Tier. The biggest factor as to why Magi Felix succeeds in solo queue so much is because of his consistency. But what exactly is consistency and what exactly keeps him going so well?
Consistency is all about having like a good mindset. If you try to play your best every game, and try to perform well, then you can like consistently reach the same level again as long as you play enough games. Not some kind of weird strategy or anything. You just play the game the same way again and you reach the same level.
Now, to be able to reach this level of play so consistently, besides amazing mechanics and decent game knowledge, he must have some special way to be able to get an edge over the other Challenger players, right? The biggest difference between Magi Felix is not what he does, but rather what he doesn't do compared to other Challenger players. Now, since Magi Felix is a mid laner, most people would expect him to be very good at roaming. Roaming is a key factor to mid lane. After all, you have access to the entire map, you're in the middle of it. So how does the best mid laner in Europe get his roams to work? The answer to that is he doesn't really roam.
Roaming in mid lane, either you actually go to their lane and you gank the lane, or you can just push your lane and then you go into fog of war and you just sit there and wait until the next wave arrives in mid and then you go back mid. Usually what I like to do is I just try to pretend that I'm roaming. I go into the side and then I go out of vision, but I don't actually complete the roam because it adds the same amount of pressure, but you don't like risk failing a gank or losing the next mid lane wave. So it's like a more consistent way to play the game. If you're playing in low elo, side laners will not like respect your roaming and you might be able to get a kill. But when it comes to like master and challenger, usually if you're going to be able to roam, the enemy mid laner is going to ping it and the side lanes will know. It's hard to get a gank and actually kill someone. The teams don't know the macro game that well, but they will not die to obvious roams that much. It's best to play the safest way and most consistent way possible because that will win you the most games.
Here's a perfect example of how Magi Felix applies pressure without doing anything. Ezreal is safely farming up against Lucian and Alistar. Even though he doesn't have his support, he's confident in his own ability to be able to outplay 2 players. However, once Magi Felix disappears from the mid lane, the enemy players start furiously pinging the possible path that he's going to take down into the bot lane. At this point, even though Ezreal's support has returned to the lane, they both decide to retreat, and in the process lose EXP and gold. But Magi Felix never had any intention to roam down bot lane whatsoever. He was always intending to go into the enemy jungle to play some wards. He's applying pressure with his presence alone. Now, one of the biggest problems that mid laners face is the enemy jungler. By being in the middle of the map, it also means you're the most vulnerable as well. But Magi Felix says that surviving a gank is not really a matter of mechanics, but rather it's a matter of knowledge.
When I play mid lane, I don't think too much about what they are actually going to do, what camps they will clear in what order, or I just think about how can the enemy jungler impact my lane. That's the most important information for me. So if I know that Graves, he doesn't really gank early game, then I will just play around that and try to play as aggressive as possible in lane. Aurelia is really good at trading early game, so as long as you know the enemy jungler is not there, then you can, in pretty much every matchup, just go in and try to trade with them, because Aurelia is super strong early game. As long as you don't play on the wrong side of the lane, you are almost always going to be safe. So because usually on level 1, at least in high elo, people ward the river bushes early game, so you can see when the enemy jungler goes for the crab. So usually you have a pretty good idea of when they can gank mid lane. Even if it's like something like Lee Sin that can gank you early game, as long as you play on the other side of the lane, then you should be safe. In lower elos, it's a bit hard because the junglers, they don't do the optimal routes and stuff, so you can't really always know what they're going to do. But in high elo, junglers usually try to be as efficient as possible. So if you know where they start, as long as you have a high understanding of jungling, you can predict their next like 4 minutes what they're going to do.
Now, what does Magi Felix exactly mean when he says just have a good mindset? I asked Magi Felix what exactly is the difference between him and someone, let's say, that could hit rank 10. At his peak, Magi Felix was able to hold accounts at rank 1, 3, and 5. So what's the main difference between him and someone who's hard stuck at Challenger rank 10?
The highest level of solo queue, it's not really a big skill difference between me or him. It's more about like my mentality and consistency when it comes to like playing ranked. When I'm playing on my main, I always try to make sure that I perform well every single game. And I feel like many other players, they have those off games where either they don't play that well or they tilt and they throw the game. Having good mentality. I would say that's what makes the difference between being rank 1 and being like rank 10.
You can think about it like this. Most of the time, Magi Felix is playing at his 100% potential, which is rank 1 potential. Maybe another challenger player who's rank 10 or 20 or 30 has the mechanical and the knowledge to be able to hit rank 1. However, because they have a few bad games with some bad teammates, they let their emotions get in the way of their good decisions. And so they end up playing at a lower skill level than what they're capable of. Solo queue is a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's about how well you can do over a long period of time. Now, when you do have a bad team, what should your strategy be? What if your bot laners are 0 and 14? What if you're down 10,000 gold? Should you ever give up a game of League of Legends? Should you just be trying to concede in FF and trying to go into the next game as quickly as possible?
There's like never a reason to FF or give up a game ever. Every time you tilt or you open a game, that's a game you could have potentially won. So try to convince them it's still winnable. And the most important thing is like trying to find one good team fight where you can get a lot of shutdown kills. Because after they change the shutdown goal, if you get like a clean ace when you are behind, then suddenly you get like almost 5k gold from nothing. Like making sure you bait the enemy team into a bad fight and then getting a lot of kills is a good way to come back. Like you just need to wait for the enemy team to make one big mistake so you can come back into the game. Like you just learn it by playing a lot of games and making a lot of mistakes. I think I'm able to like judge what the most important moments of the game are. So like let's say if it's after 20 minutes and Baron will decide the game, then I will always try to be there for the team fight. Many other players try to split up too much and try to split push too much when they should just be grouping with their team. In the end, in solo queue, like everything is about winning a team fight and winning the game off of that one team fight. You need to go into the game with the mindset that you will do everything you can do to win, but you can't really control what your teammates are doing. So instead of like thinking about how your teammates are messing up the game and how they could be performing better, you should just focus on yourself and look at what you can do to win the game. Every game, whenever you do a mistake, as long as you review the game and see what you could have done better, then you will slowly improve on that champion. You should watch both better players than yourself because there are many things they understand that you don't, so you can learn a lot from them. But you also need to watch your own replays to see what you can be doing better. If you want to climb the most effectively, you should like limit your champion pool to 2 or 3 champions that you play over and over again. It helps you be really comfortable on that champion and you don't really need to think about the mechanics and stuff. You can more focus on playing the game well. So it's like a long process of self-improvement. Yeah, I never FF. I always try to win until it's actually over and my Nexus is destroyed.
The only free games in League of Legends are the games that you give away to other players. And the only way that you get better at carrying a team is by playing games where you've fallen behind. In conclusion, Magi Felix is the Bill Gates of League of Legends. He's got more league points and wealth than anyone else in the world. He's an extremely uplifting and positive influence, and just his presence alone can change the course of a game. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much to Magi Felix for taking the time to give me this interview. You can check out his Twitter to any updates to any potential streams that he might do, or to any future competitive appearances in the LCS. Thanks for watching the video, and that's it for now. Bye!